Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly into the folds of Greek mythology, that strange and glittering world where gods behaved more like quirky neighbors than distant cosmic forces. You're not exactly stepping into a safe environment here, though. Ancient Greece had plenty of ways to trip you up: loose sandals, slippery temple steps, the occasional goat charging straight at your toga. You probably wouldn't survive this particular stroll if it were real, but luckily, this one's happening in the soft safety of your imagination. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. The air is warm, like that lingering heat when a summer's day has just begun to give up its grip, and the shadows of olive trees stretch long across a dusty path. You're walking slowly, sandals sliding over smooth stones, and the breeze carries with it the faintest trace of salt from the nearby sea. The sun is setting over the hills, painting everything in gold, and you realize this isn't the modern world at all. It's Greece, long ago, yet somehow familiar. It feels both like history and like a dream. You're not here to rush, you're here to wander. Each step feels slow, cushioned, like the ground itself has agreed to make your journey easy. You pass an old shepherd, sitting against a rock, his flock dozing nearby. He doesn't say a word, but there's a look in his eye that suggests he's seen travelers like you before. Maybe he's seen hundreds. Maybe he knows you don't quite belong here. And yet he doesn't seem troubled. Instead, he nods, as if to welcome you, and you continue down the path. Somewhere in the distance, a lyre strums, a gentle, plucking tune that drifts through the air, soft enough to be carried by the breeze without losing its melody. In ancient Greece, music was a companion to daily life, played at feasts, at ceremonies, even at small gatherings of friends, and here it is now, weaving into your evening. Historians still wonder about the exact sound of those instruments. The lyre, the olos, the kithara, none of them survive in their original tones. What would it really have sounded like, echoing against marble steps, floating through a quiet night like this? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, and somehow that mystery feels just right. As you move on, the path widens, leading toward the outline of a city glowing faintly in the distance. White walls and red roofs catch the last of the sunlight. Athens, maybe, or perhaps a smaller town, tucked away and thriving with its own myths. Either way, the streets ahead seem alive with stories. You feel it before you see it, that hum of something ancient, waiting. One widely known truth about ancient Greece is how central storytelling was to their lives. Epic poems, myths, theater all carried lessons, warnings, and humor. They weren't just tales, they were part of how people understood the world. And tonight, you're walking directly into that way of life. But here's something less well known. Many of those stories weren't recited in grand amphitheaters or painted in elaborate temples. Often, they were told casually, around meals, around fires, under starlight, shared much the same way you're hearing this one now. A gentle retelling, meant to pass the time, meant to connect. The thought makes you smile. You're participating in something ancient just by listening. The city gates are ahead now, tall and calm, with guards leaning lazily against their spears. They glance at you, but don't seem suspicious. Instead, they gesture you through, as if they've been expecting your arrival. Inside, the streets are alive but not frantic. Children laugh and chase one another. Dogs bark lazily in the distance. Vendors close their stalls, tucking away amphorae and baskets of figs. Life here moves at its own rhythm, unhurried, deliberate, timeless. The sky is darker now, the first stars poking through. You catch yourself glancing up, trying to connect the dots into patterns. The Greeks did the same, of course. Orion, Perseus, Andromeda, heroes immortalized in constellations. Did those stars always look exactly like that, or have they shifted, little by little, since the time when people first named them? Historians still wonder, and so do you. Staring into the night sky above the city, a soft voice interrupts your thoughts. An older woman, carrying a basket of bread, passes by and greets you kindly. She offers a piece without hesitation. You accept, breaking off a bit, noticing how it's dense, hearty, slightly sour from natural fermentation. Bread in ancient Greece wasn't just food, it was culture, staple, survival, a simple gift, shared easily, reminding you that hospitality here is more than a custom, it's sacred. As you chew slowly, savoring the taste, you realize the city is opening itself to you. Each sound, smell, each glance feels like a doorway. You're not a stranger anymore, you're a guest, being invited deeper, and somewhere in the heart of this city, stories of gods and mortals wait. You sense them already, stirring, ready to be told. But for now, you let the night wash over you. The warmth of bread in your hands, the laughter of children fading down a side street, the glow of torches against whitewashed walls. This is your first step into mythology, and the path stretches endlessly ahead. The city lingers behind you now, its torches flickering faintly in the distance, but your path draws you back out toward the land. The stone roads give way to softer earth, and soon you're walking between long rows of olive trees. Their slender trunks twist like old dancers, their bark rough, their silver-green leaves shimmering under moonlight. The breeze passes through them with a faint hiss, almost like whispers, though you know it's only the sound of leaves brushing against one another. That breeze carries more than sound. It carries the salty tang of the Aegean Sea, that familiar signature of Greece, and it settles cool against your skin. You take a deeper breath, and it's as if you've inhaled two worlds at once, the earthiness of olives and the brightness of ocean air. Not a bad combination. Though if you bottle it up as a perfume, you might only sell 3 of them, probably all to philosophers who appreciate irony. One widely known truth about Greece is that olive oil was more than food. It was light for lamps, medicine for wounds, a base for perfumes. Even a prize at athletic games. Victors in the Panathenaic Games didn't just win glory. They received amphorae filled with sacred olive oil. Imagine carrying home your medal in the form of 50 gallons of slippery liquid. Congratulations. Now don't spill it. Here's a lesser-known detail, though. Some ancient olive trees in Greece are still alive today, thousands of years old. Their trunks hollow, but their branches still bearing fruit. You can stand before one of them, touch its bark, and realize you're touching the same living being that may have been tended by hands long before Alexander or Socrates were even born. The thought sends a quiet shiver through you, not of fear, but of awe. The breeze sharpens for a moment, ruffling your hair, and you wonder, did ancient Greeks feel the same comfort in this rhythm of air? Historians still debate how much sea travel influenced their culture versus how much the land itself shaped it. Was Greece's brilliance born from salty winds pushing sails, or from olive roots gripping rocky soil? The question lingers like a riddle the night refuses to answer. You pause beneath one of the older trees. Reaching up to touch a low branch, the olives hang heavy, round, not yet picked. In the dim light, they look more like small shadows than fruit, somewhere nearby. You hear the distant hoot of an owl. It makes you smile, because you already know whose bird that is. But you'll meet her later. For now, it's only a reminder that the grove is alive, watching. Further along, the path dips, and the sea appears. Black water stretches to the horizon, silvered where the moon touches it. The waves don't roar, they breathe. A steady rhythm, in and out, like the world itself is exhaling to lull you deeper into calm. You stand for a moment, letting that sound blend with the rustle of the olives, a duet of land and sea. A small fishing boat drifts not far from shore. Its lantern swings gently, glowing like a firefly, and you imagine the fisherman inside humming quietly, mending nets, maybe muttering a prayer to Poseidon. The gods were always near in this world, never far from daily life. Every breeze, every wave, every harvest held a divine presence. You feel that presence now, subtle but certain, and so you walk on, the path tracing the edge of the grove, the sea always to your side. Each step feels slower, easier. The air tastes different here, cleaner, lighter, touched by salt. You let your shoulders drop, your breath deepen, your thoughts loosen. The world narrows to sound and scent, to the rhythm of walking, to the embrace of Greece at night. Somewhere ahead, The faint hum of voices begins again, like a village winding down for the evening. But you're not rushing. The olive trees and the sea breeze are enough for now, guiding you softly onward. The olive grove thins, and the sea drifts back into shadow as you follow the faint curve of the path. Soon, the sound of water gives way to something softer, something more human. At first, it's only a murmur like the low hum of a distant hive. But as you keep walking, the details sharpen. A child's laugh skips across the air, bright and quick. Then the gentle clinking of pottery. Somewhere, a dog lets out a bark, followed by the soothing clop of hooves against stone. You realize you're nearing a village, one of those timeless clusters of whitewashed houses with terracotta roofs, the kind that seems painted onto postcards centuries before postcards ever existed. The village is alive, but not hurried. Evening has settled in, and life here has shifted to its nighttime rhythm. Doorways glow faintly from oil lamps, warm circles of light spilling onto the street. The scent of roasted garlic and herbs wafts from an open window, carried by the same breeze that tugs lightly at your tunic. You're hungry again already, which feels unfair given you only just had bread. Still, food always seems to taste better when it drifts in on the night air. You pass a small courtyard where an old man tunes a lyre, his fingers plucking strings that sound hesitant, then steadier, until they form a tune so simple it feels eternal. Children gather around, though not too closely, half curious, half shy. You can tell he's playing something familiar, maybe an old folk melody. Here's a widely accepted fact. Greek villages often had musicians who weren't professionals but who played for their neighbors, weaving music into the rhythm of ordinary life. They weren't composing, and here's something less widely known. Archaeologists have found little clay whistles shaped like birds, simple toys children played with thousands of years ago. Imagine that a child then, whistling a tune in a quiet street, and a child now, laughing in the same way. The span of time collapses when you think about it. Humans haven't really changed that much. Kids still laugh too loudly, dogs still bark at nothing, villages still hum with sound. When the sky turns dark, you continue deeper into the village, and the street narrows. The cobblestones are smooth, polished by centuries of feet, and the walls lean inward just enough that the air feels cozy, close. A pot of herbs hangs from a window above, brushing your shoulder with the faint scent of thyme. Someone hums in the distance, not quite in tune, but carried by the warmth of the night. There's a faint debate among historians about just how noisy ancient villages were after sunset. Some argue they must have been quiet, people conserving oil for lamps and saving energy. Others point out that communal living means evening chatter, late meals, and lingering conversations. Standing here now, you decide the truth probably lived in both worlds, moments of lively noise, followed by deep hush. For now, the village gives you a mix. The laughter of children fades into the clatter of a clay pot being set on a stone counter. A donkey brays somewhere, startling its owner into a shout. Then, just as suddenly, a wave of quiet falls, broken only by the strum of the lyre still playing in the courtyard. You let it wash over you, like a tide of sound pulling back into calm. Your feet carry you onward, past doorways glowing gold, past neighbors nodding politely as you pass. You don't feel like an outsider, not here. You feel as though the rhythm of the village has folded you into itself, as though your steps now belong to the chorus of evening sounds. And as you leave the narrow lane, the world ahead opens once more. The marble steps of something greater begin to glimmer faintly in the moonlight, waiting for you. The narrow streets fall away, and before you rises something different. No more clay houses, no more laughter from courtyards. Instead, the night air widens. Hula, Gietir, almost reverent. The path curves upward, and there they are, the marble steps of a temple, pale and gleaming beneath the moonlight. They catch the silver glow in a way ordinary stone never could, glowing like frozen water. Smooth yet timeless, you pause at the base of the stairs. They look taller than you expected, not steep but steady, stretching upward in calm rows. Each one seems to invite you, not command you. That's the thing about marble, it's both humble and majestic. It doesn't shout for attention, it simply waits. Your foot presses against the first step. It's cool, almost shockingly so. A refreshing touch against the warmth of your sandal. You press harder, noticing how the surface feels slightly worn, not perfectly smooth. Centuries of feet have passed this way, and the stone carries those quiet imprints. Every groove, every shallow dip is a memory. You're not the first to climb here, and you won't be the last. A torch flickers nearby, its flame reflected in the polished stone. The light wobbles, doubled and tripled, as though the marble itself is alive and breathing with fire. You take another step, and another, slowly. The sounds of the village fade into distance. The chatter, the barking dogs, the strings of the lyre, they all dissolve, replaced by the gentle echo of your own movement. Here's a well-known fact. Temples in ancient Greece weren't just religious centers. They were also works of civic pride, places that defined a city's identity. Each step you take is more than just architecture. It's a statement of devotion, craftsmanship, and community. But here's something you may not know. Marble wasn't always left bare, the way we see it in ruins today. Historians have found traces of bright pigments, suggesting the steps and columns once glowed with color reds, blues, golds. Vivid designs now lost to weather and time. Imagine walking up these stairs not to white stone but to a canvas alive with painted detail. What would that have looked like under moonlight? Did the colors shimmer, or did the night wash them away into ghostly shades? Historians still wonder. Halfway up, you stop to catch your breath, not because the climb is tiring, but because the stillness is so complete it feels wrong to rush. From this height, you can see the olive groves stretching out like waves. The village tucked safely below, the dark expanse of the sea beyond. The world feels smaller, gathered into one view. Another step, another. You notice how your footsteps echo now, faint but present, as though the marble carries sound upward instead of outward. You wonder how many processions have come this way. Priests in flowing robes, musicians playing hymns, citizens carrying offerings. Did they hear the same hollow echo? Did they also look up at the glowing columns and feel their breath slow, their hearts steady? At the top, the stairs end in a broad platform. Columns rise into the night, impossibly tall, their fluted sides catching both shadow and moonlight. Between them, the temple's interior waits. You're not inside yet, but you can feel its weight the way a library's silence can be felt even before you step through the doors. You rest for a moment at the top step. The marble is cool beneath you, almost calming, like leaning against a stone that has never forgotten the mountain it came from. The breeze shifts again, gentler now, and you let it carry across your skin. From this place, the night feels both enormous and intimate, as though the gods themselves are near, listening, waiting for your footsteps to continue. But for now, you simply sit. You trace the grooves in the marble with your fingers. You breathe in the stillness. You let your body sink into the cool stone. The temple doors are just ahead, but there is no rush. The steps themselves are enough, ancient and patient, holding you in their quiet embrace. The temple looms before you, its tall columns framing a shadowed interior, but you don't feel hurried to enter. The air here has shifted, it's thicker, heavier. Almost humming with expectation, you step past the last of the marble stairs, and the sound of your feet changes, no longer the hollow echo of stone, but something softer, as though the floor absorbs your weight in silence. Inside, the torchlight flickers unevenly, leaving stretches of darkness between glowing pools. The space is vast, yet hushed. You can smell oil burning, a faint trace of incense, sharp and sweet, but not overwhelming. Somewhere within this half-light, you sense movement, a figure draped in robes, slow and deliberate, approaching the center of the temple. It's the oracle. She doesn't speak right away, and perhaps she doesn't need to. Her presence carries more weight than any introduction could. She moves like someone used to being watched, her gestures measured, her silence intentional. You feel, for a moment, as though she knows more about you than you know yourself. One widely accepted fact: the oracles of Greece, especially at Delphi, were treated as bridges between gods and mortals. People traveled for days, weeks, months, just to hear a few words from them. Kings sought their advice before wars. Farmers asked about harvests. Lovers asked about marriages. And yet, the answers rarely came in clear sentences. They came in riddles, layered phrases that demanded interpretation. Here's a lesser-known detail. Not all oracles sat in grand temples like this one. Many were local, tied to small shrines, springs, or caves. Sometimes it wasn't even a single person. It could be a group of women, or priests who interpreted signs in nature. Imagine seeking guidance, not in marble halls, but at a small spring bubbling quietly in the woods. Perhaps this makes her presence here feel even more powerful, the contrast between intimacy and grandeur. The oracle lifts her gaze now, her eyes half closed, and her voice finally breaks the silence. It's low, melodic, almost a chant. You don't catch every word, and maybe you're not meant to. Her phrases curl like smoke, slipping away as quickly as they form. She speaks of journeys, of choices, of shadows on the horizon. It feels both specific and vague, as though she's answering your question before you've even asked it, but also leaving you with more questions than before. Historians still debate the nature of these prophecies. Did the oracles truly believe they were speaking with divine voices? Were they inhaling fumes, as some suggest, that sent them into trances? Or were they simply masters of reading people, skilled in saying just enough to fit any outcome? No one knows for certain. And here, in this moment, you realize it doesn't matter. What matters is the effect, the hush, the pause, the way the words seem to echo inside your chest instead of the room. The oracle raises her hand, palm outward, a gentle gesture, both blessing and dismissal. Her robes sway slightly as she steps back into shadow, her presence dissolving into the temple's silence. She has said all she will say, and the rest is yours to carry. You stand for a long moment, the silence pressing in, the torchlight trembling, the scent of incense curling in unseen patterns. You feel no urge to speak. You don't even feel the need to move. The words, vague though they were, settle into you like seeds waiting to grow in their own time. Eventually, you turn back toward the columns, toward the open night. The marble steps await once more, glowing softly under the moon. As you leave, the faint sound of whispering follows you, though when you look back, the temple is silent. Maybe it was the wind, maybe it was memory, or maybe it was the gods, reminding you that their voices are never far away. You step back into the open night, the temple behind you fading into silence. But the echo of the oracle's words clings like a faint mist. The path curves ahead, guiding you toward a broad clearing. The air feels lighter now, charged with something you can't quite name, anticipation, perhaps. And then you sense them, not one figure, not a single presence, but many. A gathering, shapes forming in the glow of moon and torchlight. Some are tall and stern, others relaxed and laughing, but each carries an aura that makes the space bend around them. These are no villagers, no shepherds. These are the 12 Olympians, gathered as if for your arrival. You blink once, twice, and they're clearer. Their features sharpen into a scene that feels both impossible and natural, like a dream you were always meant to have. Zeus stands at the center, broad-shouldered, his hair curling like storm cloud, eyes sharp as lightning. He doesn't need to speak to make his presence known. The air already hums around him, as though the sky itself is paying attention. Beside him is Hera, regal, her gaze steady and watchful. You feel as though she's already measured your worth, weighed your loyalty, and filed you neatly into some unspoken category. Still, she carries her dignity with grace, the kind of presence that keeps the room or the heavens in balance. On the edge of the group, Hermes leans casually against a column, winged sandals dangling idly. He smirks when he notices you looking at him, and with a wink, he flicks something small, a coin, that disappears before it lands. Classic trickster. You suspect you'll be keeping a closer eye on him. Athena sits a little apart, calm, her owl perched on her arm, eyes wide and unblinking. The bird tilts its head at you, silent but piercing. Athena herself doesn't need to announce her wisdom. It radiates from her. The way a library radiates silence. Poseidon's presence is unmistakable, broad, sea-worn, his beard tangled like seaweed, his trident gleaming faintly in the starlight. You catch a faint scent of salt when you look his way, as though the ocean refuses to let him go. Nearby, Demeter's gaze is softer. She holds a stalk of wheat in her hand, turning it thoughtfully, as if listening for secrets within its golden husk. Her presence feels like warmth after hunger, like fields ready to harvest. Artemis lingers at the edge of the clearing, bow in hand, her silver tunic catching the moonlight. She doesn't look directly at you at first. Her eyes scan the shadows, alert, listening to sounds only she can hear. When she does glance your way, it's quick but certain. She's already decided whether you're prey or friend. Apollo, her twin, strums a golden lyre, the notes drifting effortlessly into the night. Each sound feels like sunlight caught in music, warm enough to reach your skin. You wonder if he plays for himself or for the gathering, but when his eyes meet yours briefly, you know he's aware you're listening. Then there's Dionysus, reclining lazily on a vine-draped seat that wasn't there a moment ago. He raises a cup, grinning, his cheeks flushed with joy or perhaps wine. Around him, faint laughter stirs, like echoes of festivals long past. You can almost hear the chorus of revelers waiting for him to join them. Hephaestus is quieter, seated near the base of a torch. Sparks flicker in his palm, tiny flames that dance in patterns only he understands. His eyes are steady, focused, and though his body is scarred and bent from labor, there's a strength in him that feels unshakable. Finally, Aphrodite moves through the group with a grace that feels less like walking and more like gliding. Her presence is gentle yet undeniable, like the scent of flowers carried on a warm breeze. When she smiles, it's both personal and universal, meant for you, but also for everyone who has ever longed for beauty or love. One widely known truth: the 12 Olympians were the heart of Greek religion, each worshipped in their own right, yet together forming the backbone of divine order. To the people of Greece, they were family, with all the drama, affection, and grudges a family could hold. But here's a lesser-known detail: the 12 weren't always fixed. At times, Hades was included. At other times, Hestia gave up her seat to Dionysus. The gods rotated, like celestial musical chairs, their ranks shifting depending on the tale or the city. Historians still debate who truly belonged among the 12. Was it ever firmly decided? Or did the lineup change with every storyteller? As you stand among them, you realize the question doesn't matter here. In this clearing, they are all present, all alive, all vivid. Their laughter mingles with the crackle of torches. Their silence holds the weight of storms and seas. And though they are gods, they don't seem distant. They feel familiar, as though you've stumbled into a family gathering where everyone knows your name. Even if you don't yet know theirs, you are a guest. Yes, but a welcomed one. For a moment, till you close your eyes and let their presence surround you. It's overwhelming and calming at once, a paradox that only mythology can offer. When you open your eyes again, their shapes are still there, shimmering faintly, waiting for what comes next. Hermes is the first to step forward from the gathering, and it feels entirely in character. His grin stretches wide, mischievous, his sandals barely skimming the ground, as though walking is optional for him. He twirls his caduceus lazily in one hand, the twin serpents winding around it, almost seeming to hiss with delight. If the other gods are content to linger in grandeur, Hermes is determined to move, to stir things up, to keep the air lively. He circles you once, as though inspecting a traveler at a busy market. A long journey, his smirk seems to say, though he doesn't voice it outright. Instead, he flicks something shiny into your palm. A coin, perhaps. But when you glance down, it's already gone. You're left holding nothing but the echo of a laugh. Classic Hermes. Everyone knows Hermes as the messenger of the gods, the one who could dart from Olympus to the mortal world faster than thought. He carried words, oaths, and sometimes mischief. He's the god of travelers, of merchants, even of thieves, which, if you think about it, is an unusual resume. Imagine a modern business card that reads, specializes in logistics, commerce, and stealing your wallet. Versatile. At least, here's a fun, lesser-known detail. Hermes wasn't just the god of pranks and messages, he was also considered the protector of boundaries. Doorways, crossroads, city gates all fell under his care. That's why small statues called Hermes, topped with his head, stood along Greek roads. So, if you ever tripped over a strange block of stone with a face on it during your stroll in ancient Athens, chances are, Hermes was literally watching your step. The god glances at the others, then back at you, and his grin widens. He leans close as though about to tell you a secret. You brace yourself for something profound, but instead, you hear a soft chuckle followed by a sudden tug at your belt. When you look down, your pouch, or what you thought was your pouch, is dangling from his hand. He tosses it up once, catches it, then offers it back as though it was always his. Historians still puzzle over Hermes' dual nature. Was he meant to be trusted as the divine courier, or feared as the cosmic trickster? Did the Greeks see him as comic relief among the gods, or as a reminder that wit and cunning are just as powerful as brute force? The debate lingers, much like the god himself, never staying in one place long enough to pin down. But what's undeniable is the energy he brings. Where the other Olympians radiate power or wisdom or beauty, Hermes radiates motion. His laughter makes the air lighter. His pranks soften the seriousness of divinity. You feel it now, the way his presence keeps you alert, smiling, never quite certain what will happen next. He leans back, wings on his sandals fluttering faintly. He offers you a wink before vanishing from your side and appearing halfway across the clearing, reclining casually on a low stone as though he'd been there all along. The others hardly react. They've seen his antics countless times. But for you, the encounter lingers, a reminder that not every step in this journey will be solemn. Some will be playful, some will be unexpected, and Hermes, whether you want him to or not, will be nearby to make sure you don't take things too seriously. The owl hoots softly in the trees above, drawing your attention toward another figure waiting patiently, calm in contrast to Hermes' whirlwind. You know who this must be, and already, her eyes seem to meet yours with steady, unblinking focus. The owl's call settles into the night air, steady and measured, and your eyes are drawn toward the figure who waits a little apart from the others. Athena. She stands with quiet dignity beneath an olive tree, her robes gathered neatly, her gaze steady as a polished blade. She doesn't step forward like Hermes did, doesn't need to. Her presence carries weight without movement. On her arm, an owl perches, feathers soft in the glow of torchlight. Its eyes are enormous, round, and unblinking, fixed on you with a patience that feels almost unnerving. It tilts its head once, slowly, as if measuring your worth, then shifts its talons against her sleeve. Athena's calm radiates outward. She is wisdom embodied, yes, but also strategy, justice, and craft. To look at her is to feel steadier, clearer, as though your mind itself has been gently sharpened. If Hermes is motion and mischief, Athena is stillness and clarity. A widely known fact, Athens, the great city of philosophy and democracy, took its name from her. The olive tree was her gift to the city, a promise of nourishment, light, and endurance. Olive oil lit lamps, flavored food, and healed wounds. It was survival, culture, and prosperity in one humble fruit. No wonder her owl watches you from the very grove that bears her legacy. But here's something less well known. Some ancient accounts describe her owl not just as a symbol of wisdom, but as a companion that could reveal unseen truths. The bird was said to see in darkness what humans could not, guiding Athena through hidden knowledge. Imagine that every flick of its head, every blink, might signal something only the goddess could understand. The owl blinks now, deliberately, and you wonder what truth it has just shared with her. Athena does not explain. She doesn't need to. Instead, she raises her hand slightly, as if in greeting. Hier Expression sehen. No smile, no frown, just the calm of someone who knows far more than she could ever say in words. Historians still debate how the Greeks interpreted her demeanor. Was Athena truly detached and rational, as her myths suggest, or was she capable of warmth, of quiet humor, of hidden tenderness? Did the Greeks imagine her as endlessly stern, or did her wisdom make her gentle? The debate has no clear answer, and standing before her now, you realize both could be true. The owl shifts again, wings stretching briefly before settling back into stillness. Its feathers catch the silver moonlight, each one sharp, delicate, precise. You can almost hear the faint rustle as it resettles, like parchment being turned in a library. You linger a little longer, letting her steadiness flow into you. The mischief of Hermes still lingers on your skin, but Athena's presence balances it. You feel calmer, more grounded, as though your thoughts are organizing themselves into neat rows without effort. Athena inclines her head slightly, a silent acknowledgement. The owl blinks again, and then, together, they turn their gaze toward the sky. You follow their eyes instinctively and see the faint flash of lightning on the horizon, a storm brewing far away, a reminder that another presence is waiting, larger than life, impossible to ignore. The flash lingers in the corner of your vision, faint but unmistakable. Lightning. It flickers again, this time closer, splitting the horizon with a pale streak of white-blue light. A low rumble follows, delayed, steady, deep enough to make the ground tremble slightly beneath your feet. You already know who this belongs to. Zeus. He steps forward now from the center of the gathering, towering, broad, his form outlined by the restless sky itself. His beard is thick, curling like storm clouds, and his eyes glint as though lightning lives inside them, waiting for release. He doesn't speak right away. He doesn't need to. The air thickens around him, heavy, like the moment before a downpour. Your hair prickles against your skin. Even the owl on Athena's arm shifts uneasily. Hermes leans casually against a column, but you catch him sneaking a wary glance at his father. No one here ignores Zeus. Everyone knows the truth. Zeus was the king of the gods, the wielder of thunder, the ruler of Olympus. His power stretched across sky and law, justice and storms. When he raised his hand, the world listened or burned. His thunderbolt wasn't just a weapon, it was authority itself, carved into light and sound. But here's something less known. Ancient Greeks sometimes offered him simple sacrifices of honey cakes, not just the grand animals reserved for larger ceremonies. Sweetness to the storm, small gifts to calm the sky. It's strange, isn't it? The most powerful god in Olympus soothed by a cake no bigger than your hand. Maybe even kings, divine or otherwise. Appreciate dessert. Zeus finally moved, raising his arm slightly. A bolt cracks the sky above, not striking the earth, but tearing across the clouds like a warning shot. The sound follows, rolling deep, shaking the air, and yet you don't feel fear, not exactly. Historians still wonder how the Greeks reconciled Zeus's contradictions. Was he a wise ruler upholding justice, or a volatile presence whose temper shaped the world? Was he protector or tyrant? The myths give both answers, leaving you to wonder if power, in any age, always comes with that same tension. The storm flares again, but this time softer. Further, Zeus lowers his arm, his gaze turning toward you. His eyes seem to ask something unspoken. Do you understand? Not his words. Not his power, but the weight of being seen by the sky itself. You hold that gaze as long as you can before it presses too heavy, and you glance away. The air lightens, the tension breaks. Somewhere, Dionysus chuckles under his breath. Raising his cup in mock salute to the storm, Hermes smirks again. Though it feels forced this time, even gods know when to tread carefully. Zeus turns back toward the clouds, his form fading slowly into shadow, the storm trailing after him like a loyal hound. The horizon clears, though the memory of thunder still echoes in your chest. And in the quiet that follows, you notice another presence near, regal and steady, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. Hera has been waiting, watching, and now her attention shifts fully to you. She does not step forward with thunder, nor does she announce herself with laughter or music. Hera, Queen of Olympus, simply is. Her presence gathers around you the way still air fills a room, quiet, steady, impossible to ignore. If Zeus was storm and lightning, Hera is the calm after it, a silence that holds weight, one that asks you to sit straighter, breathe slower, and remember where you stand. Her eyes meet yours, sharp and unwavering. There is no coyness in her expression, no flicker of humor. It's the look of someone who has seen everything already, who has measured every action, and who knows far more than you want her to. You feel for a moment as though you are a child again, standing before a teacher who has already spotted the ink smudge on your paper. Everyone knows Hera's role: goddess of marriage, family and queenship, wife and sister to Zeus, mother to gods and mortals alike. Her image was painted in temples, her name invoked in vows. She was revered not only as the partner of Olympus's ruler, but as a ruler in her own right, one who watched over the sanctity of bonds between people. But here's a lesser-known detail. Archaeologists have uncovered small votive offerings to Hera in the form of eyes, tiny carved or painted symbols meant to invoke her watchfulness. Imagine that, thousands of little eyes staring upward from shrines, asking the goddess to witness, to guard, to bless. You can almost sense those unseen eyes now, layered invisibly behind her own steady gaze. Her presence carries dignity, yes, but also suspicion. The myths make no secret of her jealousy, her fierce temper at betrayals. Yet historians still argue, was this depiction of Hera truly how the Greeks saw her, or was it shaped by storytellers who needed drama, who used her as a foil for Zeus's adventures? Was she feared as vengeful, or respected as protective? The debate lingers, much like her stare. She does not scowl, but neither does she smile. Instead, she studies you. A tilt of the head, a long pause, and then a subtle nod. Approval? Recognition? It's impossible to know. But you feel a shift in yourself, as though she has weighed you and, for now, chosen not to intervene. Around her, the air holds a different kind of energy than Zeus's storm. It's not wild or volatile. It's controlled, precise, like a court where every glance matters, every word is measured, and in that silence you feel both seen and judged. The torchlight catches the edge of her golden diadem, flashing briefly before fading back into shadow. She does not move closer, but she doesn't need to. Her watchfulness follows you even when you glance away. You realize you'll carry it with you, an invisible weight of expectation, a reminder that bonds matter, that loyalty is seen, that nothing slips past her. At the edge of the gathering, the faint sound of waves draws your attention. The sea itself seems to shift, restless, rolling louder against unseen shores. Poseidon is stirring, his presence rising, the ocean's pulse spilling into the land. The sound begins as a low hush, almost like wind moving through trees, but it deepens, steady and rolling, until there's no mistaking it. Waves. The scent of salt sharpens in the air. The ground seems to pulse faintly beneath your feet, and when you look toward the edge of the clearing, you see him, Poseidon. He rises as though the earth itself has tilted him upward, his form broad and unshaken, his beard flowing like sea foam, his trident catching faint sparks of reflected moonlight. The ground beneath him dampens, darker, as though seawater has seeped up through the soil simply to mark his presence. Each step he takes leaves the faint trace of a tide, a shallow ripple that fades but never quite disappears. The Olympians watch without a word. Even Zeus, storm in his eyes, offers Poseidon a small acknowledgement. The sea is no one's servant, not even the king of the gods. Everyone knows Poseidon as the god of the sea, shaper of waves, stirrer of storms. His trident could break cliffs, summon whirlpools, or calm the ocean to a glass-like stillness. Sailors prayed to him before voyages, fishermen made offerings of their first catch, and cities near the coast often built his temples within view of the water. But here's a lesser-known piece of lore. In certain regions of Greece, Poseidon was also honored as a god of horses. Yes, horses. Some myths even describe him as the one who first created the horse, striking the earth with his trident to bring the animal forth. Imagine that, lord of both crashing tides and galloping hooves. The link makes more sense when you think of it. The power, the wildness, the rhythmic surge of both waves and stampedes. Poseidon plants his trident into the ground before him, and for an instant the earth itself seems to shiver. You catch a faint spray of brine in the air, even though no sea lies near. It beads against your skin, cool and sharp, carrying with it the endless motion of tides. Historians still puzzle over Poseidon's character. Was he truly the violent god of tempests, feared by sailors for his wrath? Or was he equally a patron of stability, offering protection for those who respected him? Some records show him honored as a bringer of earthquakes, but also as a god who anchored land, making it fertile. The tension remains. Was he chaos or balance? The sea's sound rises louder around you, crashing against unseen cliffs, retreating into depths. You feel small standing near him, as though every drop of water in the world belongs to him, and he knows it. The trident gleams, steady, a symbol not of playfulness, but of command. He doesn't smile, he doesn't scowl. He studies you like the ocean studies a shoreline, deciding whether to lap gently against your feet or to sweep you away entirely. Then, as suddenly as he came, the sound eases, the air clears, the salt fades back into faint memory. Poseidon steps aside, his presence lingering like the aftertaste of seawater, both refreshing and heavy. And from the softened silence, another form begins to glow. A figure radiant, rising not from the earth or the sea, but from light itself. Apollo is waiting, golden, steady, his presence unmistakable. The night air shifts once more, and this time it is not storm, not salt, not judgment that fills the clearing. It is warmth. A glow gathers at the edge of the circle, faint at first, then brightening until it feels like dawn itself is leaning into the darkness. The torches seem unnecessary now, their flames paling in comparison. And there he is, Apollo. He steps forward with an ease that feels rehearsed, as though every motion of his body is already part of some larger rhythm. His hair shines like strands of sunlight, his skin carrying the faint shimmer of gold dust scattered across the air. And slung across his shoulder, resting lightly in his hand, is the lyre. Its strings glint, catching the light as though they were spun from morning itself. The clearing grows quieter. Even Poseidon's briny heaviness seems to recede, as though making room. Apollo does not need thunder or oceans. His power is quieter, yet somehow more inescapable, because it is beauty itself. Everyone knows Apollo's domains. He was the god of the sun, of music, of poetry, of healing and prophecy, a patron of order, of reason, of clarity. He drove the sun's chariot across the sky, a daily reminder that life itself rose and set at his command. His temples dotted Greece, most famously at Delphi, where the oracles spoke with his voice, guiding kings and commoners alike. But here's a detail less often told. In certain myths, Apollo was also associated with mice. Yes, mice. He was sometimes called Apollo Smintheus, the mouse Apollo, worshipped as a protector against plagues carried by the creatures. Imagine the same god who guided oracles and strummed divine melodies, also watching over little whiskered figures darting through grain stores. It is an oddly grounding thought that the radiant god had something in common with the scurrying shadows of barns. He lifts the lyre now, running his fingers across the strings. The sound blooms instantly. A note so clear and precise it feels as though the stars themselves lean closer to listen. The melody isn't forceful, not demanding. It drifts like sunlight through a window, slow, warm, perfectly placed. You feel it in your chest, a gentle hum that spreads outward, loosening the tension you didn't realize you were holding. Historians still wonder how the Greeks saw Apollo's balance. Was he truly the shining symbol of reason and order, or was there an undertone of danger in his perfection? After all, light can blind as much as it illuminates, and music can carry sorrow as easily as joy. The question lingers: was Apollo comforting or unsettling? Perhaps both, depending on where you stood when his gaze fell upon you. He plays another phrase, and you almost laugh. It feels modern, like the strum of a guitar at a summer gathering. You imagine him at a festival, people swaying under lanterns, his golden presence filling the space like background music that somehow belongs to everyone. The melody softens, slows, and then fades into a final note that seems to stretch into silence. The warmth lingers, but the sound is gone, leaving you both comforted and wanting more. Apollo lowers the lyre, his smile faint but knowing, as though he expected your reaction all along. From behind him, softer yet equally radiant, another figure steps forward, not golden but pale, serene, her light gentler than his. Artemis, twin sister, rises like the moon after her brother's Sunday. The warmth of Apollo's glow lingers for a moment longer, but it soon softens, dimming into silver. The golden haze fades into a pale light, cool and steady, and the clearing feels different now, quieter, sharper, almost like the night has leaned in closer. You glance toward the shift, and there she is, Artemis. She moves with no grand announcement, no rumble of storm or shimmer of sea. Her presence is quieter, but no less commanding. She carries herself like the edge of a blade, sleek, balanced, without wasted motion. Her bow rests easily in her hand, and a quiver of arrows glints faintly against her back. The air around her seems cooler, scented with pine and damp earth, as though a forest trail has unfurled itself into this place. Everyone knows Artemis as the goddess of the hunt, of the wilderness, of the moon, and its quiet watch over the world. She was patron of maidens, protector of animals, and guardian of untamed places. Where Apollo's sun blazed over cities and temples, her moon guided hunters and wanderers through forests and shadowed hills. But here's a less-known thread of her lore. In some regions, Artemis was worshipped not only as a huntress, but as a goddess of childbirth. People prayed to her for safe deliveries, trusting that her knowledge of life and nature extended beyond bow and arrow. Imagine that one moment chasing a stag through the wild, the next standing at a bedside, ensuring new life entered the world. It reveals a softness within her steel, a duality often overlooked. She raises her bow, but not toward you. Instead, she draws a single arrow, swift and fluid, and looses it upward. The arrow whistles into the night, disappearing into the darkness above. You hear nothing for a long moment. Then, a faint chime, like glass struck lightly, and the stars above seem to sparkle brighter where her shot has passed. Historians still wonder about Artemis's independence. Was she truly the eternal maiden, untouched by love and wholly devoted to her wild freedom? Or were those tales shaped by storytellers to create an idealized figure of untouchable purity? The question lingers, much like the faint echo of her arrow through the sky. She watches you now, her eyes reflecting moonlight, sharp and steady. It's not an unkind gaze, but it isn't indulgent either. You feel as though you're being measured for your quietness, for your stillness, for your ability to walk softly enough not to disturb the world around you. And then she steps back. The pale glow dims, folding itself neatly into the clearing shadows. The cool air lingers, carrying with it a trace of pine and silence. But almost immediately, the silence is disturbed. A louder sound rises from the edge of the assembly. Laughter. Not mocking, not cruel, but playful, echoing like wine poured into a goblet too quickly. The torches seem to flicker with sudden energy, and the scent of grapes, of crushed fruit and earth, sweeps in on the breeze. Dionysus is here. The quiet, silvery stillness, Artemis left behind, lasts only a breath. Then, like a cork popped from a wineskin, laughter spills into the clearing round, warm and irresistible. The torches flare higher, their flames dancing in a rhythm you didn't notice before, and the faint scent of grapes and damp soil settles in the air. You turn, and he is already there. Dionysus. He does not stride in like Zeus, nor glow like Apollo. He arrives as if he has always been present, waiting in the background until the moment felt right. His crown of ivy leaves curls against his dark hair, his eyes carrying a glint that is both mischievous and inviting. A staff topped with a pine cone rests lightly in his hand, the thyrsus, symbol of revelry and power. His robe is looser than the others, almost casual, as though he dressed for a festival rather than a gathering of gods. Everyone knows Dionysus as the god of wine, revelry, and theatre. His domain stretched across vineyards, feasts, and stages, where music and performance were as sacred as prayer. To him, joy and abandon were not distractions, but rituals, ways of touching something divine through ecstasy. His festivals often blurred lines between worship and celebration, mortals dancing themselves into altered states that felt closer to transcendence. But here's a lesser-known note. In some places, Dionysus was honored not as a wild reveler, but as a god of rebirth. His myths often carried themes of death and return, being torn apart and restored, descending into darkness and rising again. His presence was not only wine and laughter, but also the strange, unsettling truth that joy and sorrow often twine together. He smiles at you now, a slow, knowing curve of the lips. His laughter rises again, not mocking but contagious, and you almost feel it vibrating in your chest, tugging at some impulse to grin back, even if you don't know why. Around him, the torches sway as though caught in an invisible breeze, shadows spinning like dancers circling a fire. Historians still debate the essence of Dionysus. Was he a god of liberation, freeing mortals from their daily burdens through celebration, or was he a more dangerous force, pulling people into frenzy that erased all order? Was his gift wine, or was his gift the madness that sometimes came with it? The ambiguity remains, as complex as the taste of grapes turned to drink, sweet, bitter, intoxicating all at once. He lifts the thyrsus, tapping its base against the ground. The sound is soft, but the effect is not. You suddenly hear faint drums in the distance, their rhythm steady, primal, like a heartbeat growing louder. The earth itself seems to hum with the pulse. It's tempting you feel your foot twitch, your body leaning toward the beat. It would be easy to give in, to sway with the shadows, to forget yourself for a moment. But just as the rhythm begins to pull at you, Dionysus lowers the staff. The beat fades, the torches steady. The smile lingers on his face, but his eyes hold a depth that makes you pause. This is not merely play, it is power, carefully given, carefully withheld. Then, as the echoes of unseen drums fade into silence, the clearing stills once more. The scent of wine thins, replaced by something steadier, warmer, more protective. From the edge, a figure rises with a hearth's glow at her back. Hestia, quiet keeper of the flame, is here. The air changes once again, but not with thunder, or salt, or golden warmth, or even wine-drenched laughter. This time, it is something simpler, softer. The flames of the torches steady, as though suddenly remembering their duty, their purpose. The crackle becomes calm, the glow more even. And from that steadiness, a presence rises, not flashy, not dramatic, but somehow more comforting than any spectacle before. Hestia. She does not stride, she does not gleam, she does not demand attention. Instead, she is already there, as though she had been seated among you the entire time. Her robe is plain compared to Hera's grandeur or Athena's armor, her head uncovered, her movements unadorned. And yet the space around her feels warmer, steadier, like a fire that has burned quietly for hours without faltering. Hestia was the goddess of the hearth, the keeper of home, of family, of flame that was never allowed to go out. In every Greek city, her fire was tended with devotion, watched day and night so that it never died. In private homes, her presence was honored in daily meals, in the lighting of small fires at dawn. Unlike her siblings, she did not rush into battle or hurl thunder. She remained constant, and in her constancy lay her power. Here's a lesser-known glimpse. Hestia was so central to Greek life that when colonies were founded, they carried embers from her sacred flame to ignite their new hearths. Picture that ships crossing the sea, not only with cargo and people, but with fire, carefully cradled, ensuring that the old home's warmth would live within the new. She does not look at you with judgment, nor with playfulness. Her gaze is quiet, steady, much like the flame she embodies. You feel it settle over you like a blanket, neither too heavy nor too light, simply present. Her presence asks nothing except that you sit, rest, and breathe. Historians still puzzle over Hestia's absence from many myths. Unlike her siblings, she did not chase glory, did not meddle in wars or weave dramatic tales. Was this a sign of her humility, her choice to remain unseen, or did storytellers simply overlook her because her power was not as loud? The question remains open, much like the hearth itself, simple, central, taken for granted, but essential. As you sit in her warmth, the world feels gentler. For the first time, you notice your shoulders lowering, your breath deepening. The chaos of storm and sea, of hunt and revelry, fades into something human, something familiar. A quiet fire in the corner of a room, its glow enough to anchor you. And just as you settle into that calm, another shift begins. The warmth remains, but now it is joined by a rustle of grain, the scent of fields at harvest, the whisper of soil turned beneath hands. Demeter, goddess of the harvest, is stepping forward. The glow of Hestia's hearth lingers, but it begins to mingle with something richer, earthier. The scent of smoke is now joined by the smell of wheat, of ripe fruit, of soil freshly turned. A breeze stirs, soft but full, as if it carries with it 1,000 harvest fields waving in golden rhythm. The clearing shifts again, and into it walks Demeter. She carries no weapons, no thunder, no bow, no lyre. Instead, she holds a sheaf of wheat in one hand, the stalks catching the firelight with a golden hue, like strands of sunlight woven together. Her robe is deep green, embroidered faintly with vine and leaf, its edges brushing the ground as she walks. Around her, the air feels generous, abundant, as though the earth itself has followed her here. Demeter was the goddess of grain, of agriculture, of the harvest that sustained life. Where Hestia represented the fire at the heart of the home, Demeter embodied the fields that fed that home, the steady cycles of sowing, growing, and reaping. Without her, there was no bread, no meal, no survival. She was the rhythm of the seasons, the pulse of the earth beneath human feet. And yet, within her story lies one of the most famous sorrows in Greek myth, the abduction of her daughter Persephone by Hades. Demeter's grief over the loss halted the growth of crops, withering fields, and starving mortals until Persephone was allowed to return for part of each year. This cycle, of loss and return, became the mythic explanation for the seasons, the barren winter of absence, the abundant spring of reunion. Here's a lesser-known detail. Some ancient festivals of Demeter were restricted, kept secret from outsiders. The Eleusinian mysteries, centered near Athens, honored her and Persephone, with rituals so carefully guarded that their exact practices remain unknown to this day. People traveled from across Greece to take part, believing the rites offered insight into life, death, and what might come after. The secrecy held for centuries a rare feat in human history. She gazes at you now, not unkindly, but with a weight that reminds you she is both provider and reminder. Her eyes carry the patience of someone who has watched seeds sprout countless times, but also the sorrow of one who knows that growth is often tied to loss. It is not an easy gaze, but it is grounding. Historians still debate whether Demeter's role was seen as wholly nurturing, or whether her darker side, her grief, her anger at the gods, her ability to let the world starve, was equally present in worship. Was she revered purely as mother and nourisher, or also feared as one who could take life away as easily as she gave it? The answer remains uncertain, like the changing of the seasons themselves. The wheat in her hand rustles, though no breeze touches it. The sound is like a field whispering, like countless harvests compressed into a single stalk. For a moment, you can almost hear the hum of scythes in fields, the laughter of workers at dusk, the sigh of soil giving back what it had taken in. And then the sound fades, leaving the air still. Demeter steps back into the glow of Hestia's steady fire, their presences overlapping home and harvest, flame and field. Together, they root the gathering in something mortal, something essential. But the quiet grounding is soon disrupted. The torches flicker again, though not from storm or wine or sea. This time, sparks fly upward, fiery and restless, like embers scattered into the night. A new energy crackles in the clearing, fierce, raw, untamed. Ares is arriving. The calm scent of fields and hearth begins to thin, replaced by something sharper, heavier, like the tang of iron left too long in the Sunday. The torches do not glow softly anymore. They spit, they snap, they flare brighter, as if challenged to burn harder. The ground beneath you feels less steady, more tense, and you know before he steps forward who it must be. Ares. He does not drift or laugh or shimmer. He arrives in a stride that cuts the space into order, each step like the beat of a drum before battle. His armor glints in the flickering light, bronze polished to a shine but marked with dents and scratches, scars from endless fights. His spear, taller than you, rests against his shoulder as if it weighs nothing at all. His face is stern, his hair cropped close, his jaw set with the kind of certainty only a god of war would wear. Ares was not the strategist, not the tactician who thought 10 steps ahead. That was Athena. Ares embodied something more primal, the raw clash of battle, the sound of shields struck, the roar of men charging into chaos. To him, the fury of combat was not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be embraced. He was the embodiment of blood rush, of adrenaline, of the part of war that no one could polish into honor. And here's a lesser-known detail. Though Ares was feared and respected, he was not universally admired in Greece. In fact, many cities avoided his worship, favoring Athena's strategic wisdom instead. Even among the gods, Ares was often mocked or scorned, his temper and violence seen as reckless. Yet in places like Thrace, far from Athens, he was revered with full force, proof that war, for all its costs, was also part of survival. He looks at you now, eyes sharp, piercing, unblinking. It is not the warm gaze of Hestia, nor the sorrowful weight of Demeter. It is a test. Ares does not coddle, he does not comfort. He asks silently, will you stand or will you crumble? The question is not spoken, but it hangs heavy, as solid as the bronze plates across his chest. Historians still debate Ares's role. Was he meant as a warning, a reminder of the dangers of unbridled violence? Or was he a necessary force, embodying the inevitability of conflict in human life? Was his worship a grudging acknowledgement or a true devotion to his brutal honesty? No single answer endures. The torches flare again, casting jagged shadows that dance like dueling fighters. You can almost hear the crash of shields, the metallic ring of swords colliding, the shouts of men in combat. For a moment, it rattles your chest, as though the battlefield is only a breath away. And then, just as quickly as it began, the sound collapses into silence. The torches return to their steady flame, their sparks no longer leaping like struck steel. Ares lowers his spear, his presence still looming, but his fury sheathed, at least for now. The space shifts once more. From the edge comes a softer glow, not fire, not lightning, not bronze. This light is golden and fluid, shimmering like molten metal poured into a mold. The sound of hammer striking anvil echoes faintly, steady, patient, shaping the air. Hephaestus, the smith of the gods, is here. The flare of battle quiets, replaced by a steadier rhythm. It is not silence exactly, but a pulse of sound, slow, measured, grounding. A hammer strikes metal on stone, again and again, the blows resonating not with chaos, but with purpose. Each strike is deliberate, shaping rather than shattering. The glow of torches bends, as if leaning toward the new light forming at the edge of the clearing. Hephaestus steps into view. His walk is uneven, his gait marked by the limp that stories often gave him. His figure is broad, strong from years at the forge, his hands thick and scarred with labor. Where Ares gleamed with polished bronze and Athena shone with a warrior's clarity, Hephaestus glows with the quiet fire of creation. Sparks leap from the tools at his belt, scattering briefly before fading like stars across the ground. Hephaestus was the god of the forge, of smiths, of invention. To him belonged the craft that gave gods their weapons, mortals their tools, palaces their intricate foundations. In myths, it was his hands that shaped the armor of Achilles, his forge that built thrones, chains, and wonders no other could replicate. His power was not in storm or fury, but in shaping the raw into the useful, the chaotic into the enduring. A curious fact, Hephaestus was the only Olympian said to have been cast down from Olympus. Myths differ. Some say it was Zeus who threw him for siding with Hera. Others say Hera herself rejected him for his imperfection at birth. In both versions, he fell, injured, but rose to forge his place again. That resilience is his quiet strength. Where others embody force or command, he embodies persistence. He lifts a piece of molten bronze from an invisible forge, the metal glowing like a miniature sundae. He turns it with tongs, shaping it with hammer taps that ring through the clearing. The smell of hot metal mingles with smoke and pine, oddly comforting, as though creation itself has its own fragrance. Historians still wonder about Hephaestus's role. Was he worshipped more as an artisan for mortals, a divine craftsman ensuring civilization's survival, or as the god who armed warriors with their instruments of destruction? Was his gift of craft a blessing of progress, or a reminder that invention can never be separated from war? The debate lingers, like the sound of hammer against steel. Hephaestus glances at you not with pride, not with scorn, but with the same steady patience he gives the bronze in his forge. His eyes are dark, reflective, as if he sees in you not what you are, but what you might be, waiting to be shaped. The hammer stills. The glow of molten metal dims, cooling into something solid, enduring, permanent. The forge quiets, leaving the air warm, but no longer pulsing with sparks. Hephaestus steps back, his figure fading into the shadows near the steady hearth of Hestia. And now, from the opposite side, another light begins to grow, not the red glow of fire or the gold of bronze, but something softer, shimmering, almost translucent. The air grows salt-sweet, and the faintest whisper of waves reaches your ears. Foam and seashells glimmer faintly at the edge of the clearing. Aphrodite is near. The crack of hammer and ring of steel fade into silence. and in their place comes a softer music so faint you might think it imagined. The air grows damp, carrying the taste of salt, the whisper of waves brushing sand, the fragile clink of seashells tumbling at the shore. The clearing shifts once more, no longer just a circle of torchlight, but a shoreline pulled into the night. The scent of pine gives way to the scent of sea foam, and under the flickering flames appears a shimmer unlike any other. Aphrodite arrives. She does not stride, nor march, nor shimmer with sparks. She drifts, light-footed, as though the ground itself bends beneath her in admiration. Her robe is pale, almost translucent, edged with delicate patterns like ripples in water. Her hair glows faintly gold in the torchlight, but more than her form, it is her presence that fills the space. It is warmth and longing and softness, all wrapped together into something both inviting and unsettling. Aphrodite was the goddess of love, beauty, and desire, but also of tension, envy, and consequence. Myths tell of her rising from the sea itself, born of foam, carried ashore on a scallop shell. She was not simply admired, she was unavoidable. Where Aphrodite walked, hearts turned, loyalties faltered, choices were questioned. Her beauty was not passive, it was power, as sharp and commanding as Zeus's thunderbolt, though wrapped in silk instead of bronze. Here's a detail not everyone knows. In some parts of Greece, Aphrodite was worshipped not only as a goddess of beauty, but as a goddess of the sea and of war. In Cyprus especially, she had shrines linked to sailors seeking safe passage and even warriors who prayed for victory. Love and battle, it seemed, were never far apart. She looks at you now, and it feels less like a gaze and more like being pulled into a tide. There is no sharpness in her eyes, but there is weight. She asks nothing aloud, yet you feel the tug of every choice you have ever made, every longing, every fear, every quiet wish. For a moment, you almost want to step forward, to let the sea take you, but you hold still. Historians still wonder how Aphrodite was first worshipped. Was she a local goddess of Cyprus adapted into Greek tradition, or was she part of a much older lineage of Near Eastern goddesses like Ishtar and Astarte? Her roots are debated, branching through seas and empires, proof of how desire and beauty often slip across borders with ease. The waves you hear are not real, and yet they surround you. The sand that was not there brushes at your feet. A seashell tumbles near the torchlight, glowing briefly before vanishing as the clearing reshapes itself. Aphrodite steps back, the foam dissolving into shadow, her presence lingering like a perfume too delicate to name. And then, the torches turn upward. They stretch higher, glowing brighter, not like firelight, but like starlight. The clearing does not feel like earth anymore, but like sky. The constellations above sharpen, becoming clearer, as if someone has drawn them fresh onto the night. You realize the gathering is ending, and the last guide of this journey is not a single god, but the stars themselves, the ancient map of myths written across the heavens. The shoreline fades, the seashells dissolve, the whisper of waves slips back into silence, and the clearing shifts for the final time. The torches around you soften their glow, leaning upward as though stretching toward the heavens. The air feels lighter, thinner, as if you've walked not upward into the hills, but outward into the night sky itself. You stand on a slope now, beneath the wide arch of starlight. The hills are gentle, rolling, covered with dark grasses that move like water in the wind. Above, the constellations sharpen. They do not twinkle vaguely, as they usually do. They gleam with clarity, as though freshly painted across the heavens. And in each shape, you can see a story, a fragment of the gods you've just met. There Orion, his bow drawn, forever chasing the hunt. There Cassiopeia, proud and seated, her vanity punished but her beauty preserved among the stars. Farther still Perseus, sword raised, carrying echoes of divine gifts forged by Hephaestus' hammer and Athena's wisdom. It feels as though the entire sky is alive with the myths you've just walked through. Every star is a reminder, every constellation a quiet echo. The night is not empty, it is a library, endless and open, written not on scrolls but on the vastness above. A breeze drifts across the hillside, cool, refreshing, scented with wild herbs and faint traces of smoke from distant hearths. It carries the last impressions of each god, the thunder of Zeus, the calm of Hestia, the salt of Aphrodite's shore, the iron tang of Ares' bronze. All of them, blending together, fading, leaving you with quiet rather than noise. Historians still wonder about these constellations, whether the Greeks saw them first as myth made visible, or whether the stars inspired the myths themselves. Did stories shape the sky, or did the sky shape the stories? No one can answer fully, and maybe that's the point. Myths are not fixed, they shift, like light in the dark, like the slow, patient movement of stars. You settle onto the grass, the earth soft beneath you, the starlight pressing gently against your closed eyelids. You realize the journey has come full circle, not a path forward, but a circle around fire, hearth, field, sea, forge, and sky. You have walked among gods, and now you sit where mortals always return, beneath the endless night, waiting for sleep. The torches flicker one last time, then extinguish, leaving only the glow of constellations to light your way. The hill is silent, safe, unbroken. The stories drift like mist, then fade, leaving you not with thunder or battle or longing, but with stillness. You close your eyes, the stars remain. Now that the journey has ended, let your breathing slow, each inhale calm, each exhale longer, softer, quieter than the one before. The stories of gods and myths are set aside for now. Their voices fade, their torches dim, their laughter and thunder and whispers drift into silence. What remains is the sound of your own breath, steady as the waves that touched Aphrodite's shore, steady as the hammer of Hephaestus, steady as the beating of your own heart. Picture yourself lying beneath that hillside sky. The grass is cool, the stars are wide, the constellations are familiar now. Each star glows like a lantern hung just for you, a reminder that you are small, yes, but never lost. The universe is vast, and still, here you are, safe, warm, cradled in the quiet. With every breath, your body softens a little more. The tension leaves your shoulders, your chest, your hands. Your legs sink into the bed as though it were the hillside itself, steady and strong beneath you. The air is calm, and there is nothing you need to hold, nothing you need to chase. The myths have always been more than gods. They are reflections of us, of longing, of strength, of fear, of love. Tonight you have walked among them, but now it is time to rest. Time to let their voices dissolve into dreams. Time to let your body fall into its own gentle rhythm. Time to sleep. So, let go. Let the hillside fade. Let the constellations blur. Let the last torch of thought flicker out. And as you drift, imagine yourself floating among the stars, weightless, timeless, without need, without hurry, only quiet, only rest. You are safe. You are still, you are home, and sweet dreams.